Hi, this is Dr. Nick. I'm the Incrementalist here with incremental insights for better business and better health. This week I thought I'd talk about focusing on your COVID-19 response and the challenges in this ever-changing environment. How do we cope with all of these variations in instructions and getting to a finish line that potentially keeps on moving? So in some states things are opening, in other states they're not. We've seen big changes. So one of the things that we've done with our clients that we've found very helpful is a couple of things. So focusing on short-term goals. So thinking about things segmented down. So in the case of an opening plan, you start to think about testing. What kind of testing do you need? What's the capabilities of the testing environment that we have? Do you have access to testing in your state, in your local environment? What would that mean for your employees, for your students, for visitors, and so forth? And as you narrow down that focus, you start to hone in on specific goals. So what is it that you're trying to achieve? So you want to open. Work that backwards. Is it opening for everybody to come in? Is it opening in a narrowed down frame or reference? And what would it take to achieve that? And then the other key thing is that you can't be too narrow in your approach, especially with this extraordinarily challenging environment that we have that is constantly changing. And that requires you to sort of move out. So broaden the scope, look at things in a larger format, and importantly here is think about what could go wrong. So what happens if you identify cases? So, case in point in a business, if you have somebody that comes in with the temperature, for example, if you're measuring temperature, if that's part of your screening process, if you've gone through the necessary thinking and the protocols to determine whether that's appropriate, perhaps you have a screening app, but somebody arrives and they have a raised temperature. What do? Well, it might seem obvious, well, you send them away. But what about the impact that that might have on the employees that potentially are measuring the temperature? So have you thought through the challenges associated with, did you place anybody at risk unnecessarily? Did you try and protect or prevent that risk? So in that case, did you make sure that people were wearing their face coverings, both the person taking the temperature and the person that's having their temperature taken? And in some cases, maybe you introduce a face shield depending on the level of risk in your particular environment, so minimizing that risk. But then the other thing is, if you've got a line of people and somebody has a temperature, how do you manage that without causing undue stress on the individual that now has a temperature, obviously is concerned, and you're identifying them? So what we've found very helpful is creating a scenario or scenario-based discussions. People call them different things, tabletop discussions, and walking through each of those. So coming up with all of the potential challenges that might occur. What happens when somebody is identified, has a positive case in your school or in your business? How do you deal with that? What are your responses going to be? Are you going to have a clear plan that everybody understands and people work to and you've thought through, and potentially you're going to miss some things? But the key learning point here is, if you plan for this, if you've expected it, then your capacity to be able to deal with these unexpected eventualities is going to be vastly improved. And you may not have the specific plan, but you'll have thought through some of those instances. So in the case of a positive test that shows up, how do you deal with the contact tracing? What do you do with that individual? Do you isolate them? If you're going to move them to quarantine facilities, how do you move them? What's that process for moving? All of this sounds simple, but it's extraordinarily, people talk about this all the time. It's the devil's in the detail and working through those issues. So it's both having the narrow focus to achieve the goals. Those are the incremental steps that I always talk about, because as you find those incremental steps and you achieve success, then you move on to the next incremental step. And those steps can be very short and they can be rapid. So you can make rapid progress, but you can see yourself making progress, and then the ability to zoom out and take a broader look and start to work through the scenarios of things potentially not going wrong and having a plan to be able to deal with that. Hopefully you never use them. Hopefully that doesn't occur. But if you're prepared for it, you're going to find that you're better able to deal with this, and importantly, reach whatever that finish line is, or that goal, that short-term goal. Opening, getting your customers in, getting your students back, getting your employees back to work, all is going to be achievable. We've managed to do this for our customers and our clients, and very successfully. We've had, obviously things have not always gone perfectly, but the extraordinarily important issue here is that we've prepared, and as things have happened, those clients and customers have found themselves in great position to be able to respond and pivot and make changes so that their path continues forward to whatever the goal is, or potentially the new goal. Hopefully some of this is useful. If you'd like to hear more, please reach out to me directly or contact any of my colleagues that I'm working with, and we'd be happy to talk through this, perhaps talk through some of the areas and issues that we've got. I'm Dr. Nick, I'm the Incrementalist, here with incremental insights for a better business and a better health.